So thank you all for coming. Really appreciate you all being here. So welcome to our project search info session for Greenwich and Darien. So this is Stacy Green. She's our business liaison for Greenwich Hospital. And she's been, I guess we're in our third year of project search at Greenwich. So.
Wrapping up our third year.
Yeah.
So, excited to be here. Welcome.
Awesome. Then we'll do Abilis next. I'm Nick Stewart. I'm the instructor for Greenwich program.
I'm Aggie Chamlin. I'm the skills instructor over at Greenwich.
Monica Smith, been the program manager here at the hospital and Darien.
Hey, how are you?
Of course. Luis Velasquez, Vice President of Day and Week Services.
Okay, Amy.
Hi everyone, I'm Amy Montemuro. I'm the CEO at Abilis. Welcome, happy to have you here. We're so thankful to Greenwich Hospital, Stacy Green for helping us launch Project Search, and we are super excited to be at the Darien Y with our fabulous new partner. So welcome.
Right, now the why.
The why.
We have a full lineup.
Full lineup. So I'm Jennifer Gardner. I'm the CEO of the Darien YMCA. And Suzanne Richards, Director of Youth Development and Special Needs Programs at the Darien Y.
And Karen Ford, Director of Development here, so fundraising. So we're so happy to have you.
Yeah, so this is our first go around. We're not quite as experienced as the hospital, but it's just been, I mean, I have to say, it's been absolutely win-win for both us and I think the interns from Abilis. It's a great program, and I mean, our staff can't speak more highly of not only the interns, but how much we're enjoying working with them, so.
Oh, you got
The last person who's not here is Jamie Zionic. She's our instructor for the Darien site. So we've changed around our philosophy a little bit, but the bottom line is all people have the fundamental right to work. The right to work is enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and recognized in international human rights laws. So we want to provide that transition into the workforce best that we can. So part of where you're at is the Darien YMCA. They were awesome enough to provide this room. They also provide a classroom, business liaisons for the Darien Y, internships in various departments, and mentors from those departments. And I'll dive more into mentors as well as the departments a little bit more. Our program description, we run from 8 months to 9 months. Greenwich is 9 months from September to May, and the Darien Y is changing. This year it's January to September. August. And next year we'll be starting October and finishing in May. Each program has a very intern to instructor ratio. At the hospital we've had 9 at our largest, but mostly between 3 and 10 adults are in our program. There are skills trainers and instructors, as well as a manager who kind of oversees and makes sure that the communication with business liaisons goes well. It's okay, Linda. Linda's also a big part. Linda, I didn't realize.
Nice to see you.
She's also helps with some of the back end of things through Abilis. But the most important thing is that the interns are immersed into the host business culture. They're here on site. They're interacting with all staff, members of the Y, all staff at the hospital.
So
as well as patients, yes. So at the hospital you'll see a few photos of red polos versus purple polos, so it's easy to recognize that they are an intern from Project Search. And a couple last points, rotations through unpaid internships with continual feedback. Positive, constructive, and that's a big part as well as the family communication and involvement. And of course, outcome of employment in the community.
I want to just encourage anybody who has questions to ask them as we're going through this information, because it might be more meaningful to do it that way. So yeah, we have a question.
Yeah.
Start with my
Please.
question. So is this specifically being run through Abilis? Does the student or the individual need to be part of Abilis to be part of this program?
No.
Okay.
This is covered in other parts of what we're going to present, but since you're asking it now, the way to look at it is who can be part of our program, which is a partnership, whether it's between Abilis and the hospital or Abilis and the Y, and there's also school districts and the Department of Developmental Services that are involved. So the way really to look at it is everyone has to have a way to fund the internship.
Absolutely.
So sometimes school districts will send somebody to us, or somebody that has an adult budget through Department of Developmental Services comes that way.
And that is my reason why. So I didn't want to spend the time here if my daughter wasn't going to be eligible. So I have a 23-year-old, DDS is involved, but she's an individualized. So I have an individualized program in which I'm able to hire staff and work with my daughter without her being part of any specific group.
So Louis, maybe, can you stand up and maybe answer how?
So, yeah, no. So you have an individualized budget,
Yes.
and I mean, that's a newer model for us. That would be a little bit different, but we would have to talk about it. We would have to figure out how the funding could work to support the program, whether she was even appropriate for the program. There's an application process that they'll go into, so we would start with that.
I mean, we were supposed to have somebody from DDS here. She signed up, and she's probably caught in traffic. But you know, if you have an individualized budget, you would have it through DDS,
Yes,
right?
I do. Yes, I do.
She
So,
already has funding in place.
Yeah. So I
yeah, so
don't
it
know.
wouldn't be a problem whether to
I
place her.
can't, see, that's where the DDS has to get on board, and you need to work with them.
Okay.
And that's why I said I wish the woman who was coming from DDS, but,
Okay. I'll wait.
please,
No,
Ms.
yeah, I mean, I think
Great question.
our team is really great about communicating and really getting to the bottom of things. So.
Yes.
So I have a 24-year-old daughter with disabilities. She does not qualify for DDS, and she's aged out of the high school. So is she eligible for this program?
Well, the funding would come through private pay. That would be the way.
Is that a possibility?
Oh, yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Oh.
We do have, we've had some
That's
people,
one program.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
There's, I think another program that we offer through competitive employment is Ticket to Work. That could also be another avenue.
But it's not,
That's
it's not.
post-project search.
Okay,
Yeah,
post-project
yeah,
search,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, if you qualify for that program, there would be funding available to pay for job exploration and job coaching and support long-term.
And Matt Miceli, M-I-C-E-L-I, is the man from Abilis who is in charge of Ticket to Work and competitive employment. I almost apologize that there are so many different sources of information, but that's the way it is.
To the next slide. Yeah.
So some of our eligibility criteria, and this is very important, and you guys will see this as you fill out the application, and we have assessment day. Is it appropriate? Social, hygiene and communication skills are incredibly important. Ability to accept and apply feedback, so being able to really listen to directions, understand what your mentor said, work on this, fix this, is able to be applied in that intern's work. Ability to access public transportation is not, well, it's very important. We do have some parents who do choose to drive their interns, but the ability for our students to access transportation and be able to do that on their own really amps up that independence and is something we're looking for them to be able to get a job and hold a job after project search. Complete any onboarding at host site, so really get into the program, meet the department, and things like that. And the biggest thing, which we talk about all the time, is you need to have the desire to work. There needs to be a drive to want to get things done, to work, to be part of a team of people working together to get something done. And that is a big part of what makes us so successful, is that drive and desire to want to work and be trained properly.
There's me.
There's
Go right ahead.
So our days are pretty awesome and super jam-packed. So every morning at 8:45, our interns come in. This is for the hospital. The Darien does a slightly different program just by hours and timing, but very similar day layout. So they'll come in, get their badges, check in, and we'll do something in the morning, a short lesson, go over goals for the day, really set students up to have a successful and meaningful day. At 9:30, they go out to their internships, so they're in all different departments around the hospital, and they'll be working in their departments from 9:30 until 12. So it's a full morning of work, as we all do. Around 12 o'clock, they have lunch all together with their coworkers, with each other. And then they'll go back to their internship for another hour or so, finish up the afternoon, get to work on some more skills. And then in the afternoon, we get to have an hour class. So really debriefing the day, diving further into that project search curriculum, which Nick and I can give some examples of, and really just diving deeper into what it means to be an employee, what it means to be a good coworker, and all the things that we learned as well. And then 3 o'clock, they go home. So it's a pretty busy day. It does mimic the hours of a school day, just incredibly jam-packed.
So yeah, that's a big part. It is a long day, it's a big adjustment, because what Project Search expects from us is employment of at least 16 hours per week. This is very close to a 30-day work week. 30-hour work week. That'd be a little nuts, but so I think it's important that, you know, our applicants are ready to some degree. We do have that orientation piece that Aggie was mentioning, to just really get used to the schedule, the environment, you know, et cetera. So I think what we'll do, we'll give out a couple examples of some curriculum. So we do have that employability skills mentioned up here. Sorry, thank you. So we do have, like Aggie was saying, the Darien model is a little different. So it's only 30 minutes in the morning, but at the hospital we have 30 minutes in the morning and then a full hour in the afternoon to review a couple of the examples that you guys are going to get. And the colorful one is one of my favorite games. It's called the Bean Game. And it really gets introduced, I'd say, 6 months into the program, which is about financial planning, budgeting, things like that. So that's one of the 9 units that we cover. And the not colorful one, I forget.
It's all about team building and kind of going through different scenarios that could happen at work, most likely have happened in the past, and kind of how to follow through with those different scenarios of things that go on during the day.
So it's Project Search is been very well established. So they have a lot of activities. Sorry, let me back up. They have, so Project Search is nationwide as well as in a couple of other countries. They have over 650 different sites. So they have probably thousands of people, teachers, educators who put lots of work into their activities and their lesson planning, which is something that we get to utilize. Another part of it is maintaining employment and preparing for employment. My 2 favorite units, just because it's something that gets used throughout the year and you can tell by the end of 9 months, 8 months, that they remember it, that it makes sense. So I think that's super important. Well, I'll do it. So internships, we've mentioned how long it is. It's 4 to 5 hours a day, not including our classroom time and travel time. Miss Monica did the math, 910 hours a year.
Good math.
And these are marketable skills. So it's not things that are helpful to the host business. It's not,
It's not volunteer work, it's not
yeah.
busy work.
So these are a couple examples. Here's Alexandra. I want to say it's this. It's not this room. It's right across.
It's across the hall.
Right across the hall. So she's in an internship in childcare, more of the school setting. So she's getting the schedule down. She's understanding how to communicate with young children in search of a teacher's assistant position. Here's Ben. This is a brand new internship to us. Thank you, Miss Stacy. It's
Super exciting.
sterile processing. So every time soft equipment or materials come down from the surgery that aren't used, then enters the reference code into the computer, sorts it on 40-something different shelving that have 6 shelves on it. And this is his 3rd internship, so that's a big jump from what he started at. And that brings me to the cascading skills. Ben started in wound care, which was just restocking, cleaning rooms, and now in his second internship, he was in the pharmacy, kind of upping the ante. He was sorting medication into the different departments. And now a step further, he's sorting through reference codes.
So we really took that skill that we realized in the pharmacy that he was so good at and so strong at, and with the help of Stacy, we really carved out an internship where he would be able to further those skills and really master that art of stocking, putting things away, organizing in a hospital setting.
Absolutely. Sorry, don't want to miss out on Kat. She's over in physical medicine. She started in maternity, which wasn't really able to do room turnover, but it was a lot of communication skills, social skills, which is such a huge piece of our program. So we spend a lot of time with feedback, understanding positive and constructive. And it's coming from us, it's coming from their mentors from the department, as well as other coworkers.
What kind of tasks were involved in that?
In
Which one?
The last one?
in CATS, so yeah, so CAT, you can see that this was in physical medicine, so it's not a hospital bed, it's one where you kind of like lay down and get massage.
Physical therapy.
Maybe not massage, but, so she strips the linens off, puts it into a dirty linen bag, uses the appropriate cleaning materials, gloves, goggles, all the PPEs that's required. She cleans it, she tidies up the rest of the room, and then she remakes the bed. On top of that, you can see some shelving, you can see some gloves and cabinets up over there. In her downtime, when a patient hasn't left and all the other rooms are clean, she has a task list that's put together by us in coordination with the mentors and the department. And she goes through, makes sure it's all tidy, looking nice for the next patient. And if anything's missing, she makes a list, gets it from the storage room, and replenishes that. Cool. All right, so you've heard me mention first, second, third internship. This is kind of jumping up past assessment day, things like that. But the beginning of the program, there's 1 to 2 week orientation for both.
No, we don't, Maya is just 1 to 2 days.
Oh, sorry, read it too quick. You can see in other situations that there isn't too much material that needs to get covered. It's a quick orientation that most staff do in order to be integrated into the host business. So through HR, through our business liaisons, they will provide the materials that are necessary to be an appropriate worker. And there are 3 10-week internships with a transition week in between. So what that means is we don't just say, all right, you're going to physical medicine. We take the time, one-on-one practice, Aggie, myself, Monica, Jamie, and we make sure that the intern fully understands what needs to be done, what's expected. Here are the first 2 skills that you need to master in order to start your day. And that happens during transition week as well. So it's Thursday, Friday, we'll spend a day or 2 one-on-one, work with the intern, and get them reintegrated into their new department.
It's also during those transition weeks a lot of the time that our master, I call master of resumes, Matt Michelli, will come in, and usually after the first or second internship, we'll really starting to do the job searching, the resume building, just so when it comes time to graduate and look for those jobs, we're not scrambling to make a resume and a cover letter when there's a job already available.
Yes.
I need to ask, so is this project search for 9 months?
Yes.
And then from there, okay, so my question would be, are you looking for specific, does the individual need to have a specific IQ
No.
in order to be
No.
able to finish or be able to just learn from a program that's only gonna run for 9 months? Again, we're talking about individuals who have difficulty learning, you're talking about anxiety, new environment,
Absolutely.
completely different, a new environment for them. So what
Totally.
happens within those 9 months if the individual does not meet the goals?
So
Can they
what-
redo the program again, or?
So what we try to do is really establish, is this an appropriate program for them when you submit an application? So we'll check references, Monica's grabbing that.
Anybody want an application? I have hard copies here.
Just to look over it, so what we do is, it's a smaller, it's a bigger class, but we do make sure that each intern is appropriately integrated and really understands what's going on. So it is only 9 months, but there's a lot of things that we do cover, and it's all about kind of getting into the routine of working.
But it is for somebody, it's not for everyone.
Absolutely.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
You have to be able to work in a work setting on a team without a one-on-one aid, for example. You have to be able to communicate, whether it's, other programs have had people that don't speak, that might sign. You have to be able to communicate. And the motivation and the energy to stay with a long, hard day. The way the program works is if it's somebody that can't do it in 9 months, I think then maybe that's not a program for that person. If you have a concern about that.
Yeah, I take a look at everything, the IQ score, is this something that's suitable? Will 9 months be a good time for her to accomplish something? And if not, then maybe a different task can be done. So that's what I'm looking at. Somewhere that she's going to be successful in the time that she'll be able to learn at her own pace,
Well,
not
this-
in a
yeah.
specific time frame.
This isn't really a program that you learn at your own pace.
Okay.
It's like,
Workforce.
we're aiming hoping that every intern, we try, will be successful at all the skills that are required for an entry-level job. And that's what we're aiming for. Maybe they don't get them all the first internship, maybe they get them the second. But, we commit resources, the state commit resources, sometimes the school district if you're paying privately, and it has to be, it's meant for people that would be successful with this model. And we do have a pretty good track record for evaluating that based on reviewing the application, references, and also we have assessment day, which Nick and Aggie will talk about later, so.
Most important part, graduation. Graduate and begin work at host site. You know, that would be absolutely ideal, or in the community. So we're not gonna ask someone who lives in Bridgeport to come work in Rye. You know, we do have a lot of resources through Abilis throughout Lower Field County. So we do our best to, if they're, get as close to home as possible, to make it less taxing, less commute, that I don't think any of us.
So just going back, what I said before about the volunteer work, things like that, this is not volunteer work, and they are not the easiest tasks that we pick out or the things that would help out, but rather opportunities to learn complex and systematic skills and increase job readiness. So they're not just going to grab something for a nurse, they're really putting in the work to make the department function as a whole. So accommodations, adaptations, and supports, as Nick touched on. Myself and Nick are in the classroom in Greenwich, and Jamie and Monica are usually up in Darien. So there's usually 2 supports to a class of students, a skills trainer and a lead instructor. And with that, we come up with varying accommodations and adaptations to make our students successful. That's not to say if they can't tie a ribbon bag, we're just going to take that out of the skill list, but how do we find that modality that they will be successful tying a ribbon bag? Or how do we make it so that a student with really small hands can tie a huge linen bag from the hospital? Finding those ways that we can make the skill possible and easier for our interns in order for them to accomplish something. So things are constantly being tinkered with and tweaked, but still getting done in a way that is up to the standard of the hospital or the Y.
Here's an example of a task, sorry. Here's an example of a task list. This is from our first year in environmental services. So some of the tasks were dusting, sweeping. Another one is how to restock your environmental cart, all the necessary materials. And then I think the last one says steps to sanitize patient room. So things have changed a little bit because of COVID. And I know things are very different here as well. But I think it's important to note that if a task list, if a reminder, a note needs to be there, that's how we can support in the easiest way.
But look, I want to just, because I want to talk a little bit about the why, because I know more about the why than Nick and Aggie, but for example, our interns at the Y, they haven't needed to rely on this as much, probably partly because, you know, it's just a smaller community, and the mentors are just able to be right there showing the intern what to do, and our interns that are at the Y are able to just pick it up. That's just how they learn, by that method. So I wanted to just, you know, because sometimes you look at that and you think, oh, well, maybe my young adult doesn't need that. So we really do take, Nick, Aggie, and Jamie do a great job of taking the intern where they are in terms of how they learn. I mean, we've had Mohammed working with Patty in marketing, and you know, he just he's really motivated to do graphic design work, and and we're able to, because we have a strong instructor who also knows graphic design, Jamie, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, is just getting him on all these platforms, and in turn, Mohammed is showing the other interns like how to do certain things. It's just, you know, it's just a win-win. And I know the same thing is going on in the hospital,
Absolutely.
but I just wanted to share a little bit about it.
When you are upset, and who to go to with questions, I think that's a huge social piece. We do give a lot of feedback, which is usually positive. Sometimes it's constructive. Not everyone loves that. So we are going to get upset. We are going to have issues, and I think everyone's wanted to cry at work at some point, so learning how to deal with it.
Just going through some of our departments, we talked about some of them before. This is physical medicine, so rotating through a lot of sanitizing, a lot of restocking skills, a lot of folding, which is an incredibly marketable skill. One of our intern, Kat, actually has a big interest in working in retail, so we now have her in the thrift shop. So she's really getting to further those skills that she started over in physical medicine, folding towels, now moving that into folding different items of clothing. We talked about Ben before. He's over in sterile processing, which is kind of, they call it the heart of the hospital. So all equipment that goes down to the OR gets processed in sterile processing. Ben finds where it goes, finds the label, puts it away neatly, goes back to the computer, and keeps going like that. So incredibly useful. Food services, kind of self-explanatory, but they're in the back of the cafeteria, learning how to cut different things, work as a team, follow instructions, a lot about cert safe and food preparation, hygiene, all of those super important skills for working in a kitchen and being safe with our hands.
I promise there are some at the Darien line.
Yes.
They're coming up.
Volunteer and escort, this is Alex, so he helps down in Stacy's office. He was making COVID kits here, so COVID swabs. Every patient that would come into the hospital needed a COVID swab, so we were going through, I don't know, hundreds of these a day. So he was doing that and delivering discharge folders, which are all things that have to get done in a hospital. So yet again, a super important job.
I'll skip the next one. Because we
Yeah,
talked
please.
cleaning and sanitizing, restock.
There we are.
Hey, there you are.
Facilities is a department that we have both at Greenwich Hospital and at the Y. So it's a lot about maintenance, repair, stocking, fixing things. So machine or pool repair, because we don't have a pool over at the hospital. Stocking all areas with necessary equipment or tools, and also maintaining the grounds. So outdoor maintenance, cleanliness, things like that, going around restocking tissues, kiosks, cleaning bathrooms. No, that's EBS, sorry. Yeah, super important. Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of point out two of the, they're actually both on the left. So this is Derek, and this is a manager in facilities at the hospital. So this is kind of what a mentor becomes. I mean, it becomes kind of like your work best friend.
So those two hit it off on the first day. When we were two peas in a pod, never a doubt that they would get along.
Yeah. So it becomes that understanding of what is a work friend, what, you know, where are the boundaries. It becomes a whole nother lesson in itself. They're very knowledgeable. They understand how to follow directions. They're, you know, rewiring a, I think a water system.
Water cooler, yeah.
Water cooler. So not only do they provide skills, they provide that social piece as well.
Here we go. Here's the why.
We're on a roll. So childcare, teacher's assistant in a preschool program, preschool classroom. One of Alexandra's main focus is, you know, keeping children safe on the playground. So there are different areas that each internship can focus on. It can be more lesson planning one day. It could be monitoring another day. So it's not going to be day after day on repeat. Everything's always changing.
We're always trying to cascade those skills, as Nick said before, so it's not Groundhog Day. We talk a lot at the hospital how to make it not Groundhog Day, day after day. So changing it up, adding tasks, making sure that happens.
Awesome. And a brand new piece to kind of our program is the graphic design and marketing piece. Mohammed, who put, yes, the people in the back. So their department, they help Mohammed research and prepare social media posts, edit flyers, I think the flyer that was provided this afternoon was designed by Mohammed. Advertise Project Search at Darien YMCA. Improve keyboarding skills. I think that happened.
Goes for all of our
All
interns.
And learn Lucid Press. I think that's one of the programs. But I think what's really great is Jamie and Patty have been working together to really push what programs on the Chromebook are free. And what can I learn? Because, you know, I think they looked at an Indeed job posting and they said, wow, like that's actually on there. Here's something that I can learn.
Wow.
So I think that's another important piece as well, moving forward with the employment. Fitness and Wellness Center, I say this every day. Chris could take the job of the reception at my gym. He's much more friendly, understanding. But it goes more than that. Each internship, I think, we really want to make the point that it's not just, you know, we're here, we're showing up, we're really learning and trying to get that marketable job. So he sets up and takes down equipment, he creates members, he's starting to learn names of the regulars, spot clean, and there's a program that they use to keep track of members, who's there, who shouldn't be in certain areas, so it's pretty great. Yes.
I have a question for you.
Absolutely.
I'm listening to you. It's very task-oriented, you know, I get all that. Except for the previous slide,
Yes.
which was graphics, you're sitting at a desk job.
Mhm.
What's your, if this program does not seem geared towards, you know, asking the question, to people, like for example, someone in a wheelchair, someone who's physically disabled, you know,
Sure.
who can't stock a shelf, or, you know, what's your, aside from this one narrow, you know, application, is that kind of the philosophy, is to focus on more task-oriented stuff? And, you know, if someone's physically disabled, it's not a great fit, really. Is that a fair statement?
So I think there's, I was just watching a video today. There are some tasks in departments that are accommodations are available that are, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the term, but reasonable requests by the employer. I think that those are different things that we can dive into in different.
But I understand that part, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to get at, you know, the desk. This
Yeah.
is a desk job
Yes,
versus
sure.
the other thing. This thing's, it's not as focused on this kind of preparation.
So this specific intern is not a
No, but- Well, I was just gonna say that, I don't know, we have our gurus, our head honchos here about how's Abilis able to support people with physical disabilities. I know we definitely have a strong record in that regard. We
Okay.
also have access to the national program, and we can get like ideas from them as well. Like we can write and say, oh, you know, we have somebody. We haven't had that so far. I'm not saying we wouldn't want to try to make it work if the person was motivated.
If someone's appropriate for the program, we
Yeah.
can do some development within the setting to find an appropriate internship. So if someone requires a setting more like an office setting, we would work with the host site to find stuff that fits. It's really about being appropriate for the program and then developing the opportunities around.
Right, within some limit. I mean,
Right,
you know,
right.
for example, Mohammed came and this is really what he wanted to do, and so we really lucked out because we were at the Y. If we'd been in the hospital with him, I don't think we could have made it happen as easily. Do you have any other?
Again, going back to
But
the
I think we didn't repeat his question though, so the video
okay.
doesn't, we're okay, okay.
No,
I think
you're
going back
answering.
to what you were saying as well, we do have, you know, in one of our students' first internship, she was in the outpatient clinic. She would do a ton of charting. She learned the computer system Epic, which is the hospital computer system. So there are many different more desk-related tasks and employable skills that we could carve out, depending on the internship, depending on the interests, and like Louis said, depending on if it is a feasible option for this intern, how do we make that possible? So just because it's what we're seeing doesn't mean that it's everything that could happen at the hospital or at the Y.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, from what I understand, you guys are not really providing any one-on-one help, even in the beginning, so people are expected to come and just like that, acknowledge what they need to do and go on, right? So then what's the difference between you and just any other regular, like, I don't know, McDonald's?
So Nick,
You expect to do it right away.
Yeah, absolutely. So the question is, how do we provide that one-on-one training, right? So we are very different. We do provide, sorry, I looked up here like it was still there. The calendar provides that one-on-one training in order to show that, yes, you can do it, and we're not going to leave until it's possible. Each intern does get that one-on-one training in the very beginning, and every single day we do make a point of sitting there and making sure that task is being done correctly. So they do.
There's an onboarding process for each one of the interns.
Yes.
so for the first week or so, week and a half, that the interns are going into their department, they're not going alone.
Right.
They'll be with Nick, myself, somebody from Matt's team who's not here right now, Monica, even Stacy sometimes will pop down to a department.
And mentors.
And mentors.
Yeah.
They all have a mentor. So in their department, it's a one-on-one based system for the most part. So they are being monitored, they are being taught, and also with Nick and I and many others coming around and checking in.
So there is a
Sorry,
point
that's
of they do need.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I'm not part of the info session, but I see Patty providing one-on-one to Mohammed like every day.
Absolutely.
So we do rely on the host business, those mentors, like you saw Derek and forget his Jerry, I'll call him.
Go
So
back to the Alex picture.
yeah, so that's not our staff, but we do rely on that mentor piece.
Mentor.
So they are with someone all the time. Like you saw, Chris, who's just standing there at the desk, he's not there alone, that was just for the photo, but.
I'm going to speak on behalf of the
Yeah.
Y. Sorry, get in the picture. Again, Suzanne from the YMCA. We do have the 4 interns. So I'm going to use Derek and Dorian. For example, Derek will give Dorian tasks. And then Dorian will go back and say, okay, completed this task. And then he'll be like, great, let's fix whatever we need to fix. Here's the next task. And so even though he's the mentor and he is kind of that one-on-one, the intern's able to go and do stuff on their own and then come back. For instance, when we talk about Mohammed with Patty, Patty's not sitting there with him the whole entire time because she has a job to do. She gives him a task, he comes back and checks on him. Alexandra's is a little bit different because she's co-teaching with our current teacher. And Chris, who works at the Wellness Center, we have 2 different sections. So he'll go back and forth and check in. So they do kind of have extra support with the mentors, but they do things on their own as well. So hopefully that's a little clearer.
And the big thing is they're motivated
Yes.
to do what their mentor said, to show they did a good job.
They like to check things off.
Oh, yeah.
I have my list, I've checked it and I've accomplished, these. And if I haven't accomplished, maybe tomorrow, we'll do those the next day and we'll work on more. And then build more as they're becoming more,
So
experts.
so you have mentor system in the hospital also, or just
Yes.
in the
Yeah.
Darien?
Hospital also.
Also, so the same system.
That's the
So
model.
there's somebody, basically the intern can check in if something, like if he's done something correctly or not done something correctly.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So it's the person to go to.
All day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
And
what
then-
basically the.
And then like for here, we have Jamie, who's the instructor, and Monica's been here too.
Okay.
Jamie, all she does all day long is walks around and checks in with the mentor, make sure everything's going well as the intern. Any questions, that kind of stuff. So besides the mentors, there's always the instructors, here as well as
Constant
the
communication between everyone.
I mean, the way you asked the question, how is it different from a regular job?
Yes. basically.
And it's a 9-month kind of immersed in the departments, learning skills, learning the soft skills of employment. That's what it is, and trying to correct, oh, you didn't quite do that right, oh, let's fix that. you know, in a really healthy community way. So it's very, very different from
It
just
just
getting.
wasn't, it wasn't clear until I actually clarified with you.
Well, I'm so glad you did.
That's why I wanted to step in. And the other thing is, you know,
So thank you
Dorian's
for that.
working facilities right now, but next session, I believe he's gonna be working at the front desk, checking people in at the front desk when they come in, but also learning our front desk membership and all that kind of stuff. And then his third one, he may be teaching preschool or we're gonna incorporate summer camp for, as part of their third intern for some of them. So, you know, they get different skills, kind of like you guys are talking here. So that kind of gives them a broad, you know, what worked best for them and what were they really good at and what did they, you know, might not be the marketable job skill for them.
I'm just gonna also say, and the mentors communicate with the job coaches pretty regularly. So if there is a real challenge where an intern is having a hard time mastering a task, I would communicate with Nick or Aggie and say, you know, Jane is having a really hard time working on this. And that's where that classroom time is helpful, or they can use a conference room and take them aside and really work on that task until they feel comfortable enough to go back into the department to do that.
The application process. So, you all got applications, but they are also available on the Abilis website. Submit your applications on time, the sooner the better, so that we can really get a good look, we can communicate with you, the references that are on there. A selection committee reviews applications, repeating myself, checks references, and then an invitation to assessment day is sent out. We're not gonna leave you hanging if, you know, we don't think it's a good fit. We will communicate and say, this might not be a good fit, let's look at some other options. Then if you are invited to assessment day, it is mandatory. Someone unfortunately couldn't make it last year and it was just too late. So that's a real time that we're able to look at some skills. Are you able to do it? Are you able to accept that feedback? Do you have the do you have the desire to be there? So it gives us a really good idea. And acceptance letters are emailed after assessment day. And then we would begin. So it happens very fast, but there is a lot of communication. Yes.
How many interns do you have at each location, and what do you plan for the next year?
Right now, we have, sorry.
Yeah.
The question was, how many interns do we have at each?
So at Greenwich Hospital right now, we have 6, and at the Y we have 4. It varies year to year, kind of depending on how many applicants we get and what the demand is.
So this upcoming year, you know, we'll be asking for applications. We'll just kind of see where things go on the number of applicants. But I think it's between 3 and 10. That's kind of where we stand from program to program. Yes.
Another question. So from what I understand at least, so in order to be participating, the funding have to come from either DDS or private pay.
Or through the school system.
Or through the school system
Yes.
if you still under a certain age.
Yeah, if they
Correct.
haven't aged out yet.
Yeah.
So the DDS process, does anybody have, any ideas how to approach that? Any resources
I
for
can
that?
assist you with that. Yeah.
Yeah, so Lewis will be able to assist and have that conversation.
Okay.
How old is your?
He is 20, will be 21 this July.
Okay.
He's still kind of at school.
Yeah,
But
so,
he's currently enrolled in a program that is not, it has some internship
Sure.
included, but not as extensive as yours, obviously.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
there's a more like academic / internship kind of
Combination.
program. It's a
course.
mix.
Well, you got to get going on the DDS piece because the DDS is a
Takes
whole
a
new
while.
bureaucracy and
Absolutely.
so you gotta.
That's why I'm asking.
Yes.
Jumpstart that.
yes.
I'm sorry if I missed it.
That's okay.
What's the family participation? How do they participate with it?
So family participation, I hate to give homework, but it's something that I will communicate with you. and say, I have to send a packet home this weekend, we really need to work on hygiene, for example. That was one that came up just last week. So we will communicate feedback and say, you know, I'll use Alex as an example. Alex, I'm gonna let your parents know that, hey, we need to work on this. So I think that's the big piece. So getting, employment meetings. So employment meetings, they happen, we've changed around the calendar a little bit. So at least once an internship, we'll have a team meeting that covers employment, next steps, overall feedback, and we ask that parents attend and participate. So.
But on the parent participation, it's really the most success, it's like anybody, you know, having a family behind you and being part of the team, the intern is going to be more successful because the family will be motivating them to, you know, hone skills, and even when it comes to the job development part, that's just the reality of it all, unfortunately.
The involvement is key.
Right. That answer
Yes.
mostly?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Just being involved.
Yeah, absolutely. So there we go. Funded. So school district pays tuition if IEP team recommends it. DDS funds through adult budget or private pay option. Any questions on?
Can you explain more the private pay option?
Okay.
So if none of the other resources available, we work with families to contract for the services.
It's a tuition.
There's a tuition, it's a tuition-based program.
And we might as well tell them what it is.
Yeah.
This year, the tuition is $32,000.
People pay monthly, we invoice people monthly. It's very unfair. I mean, we all know, people at Abilis all know how unfair it is that some people have an adult budget and some don't, and I'm sorry.
Okay, so here's we have a couple of our contact cards as well, but feel free to reach out to us. Myself, for Greenwich, I can also cover Darien answers as well, but we do our best to communicate with each other and really solve any questions that come up.
Anybody have any other questions? The applications we want them in, I think, by like the third week in May. And the way we've explained it is we want the applications in because we have a date set for assessment day, which is Tuesday, June 7th. But we'll continue to take applications if there are spots, even if people don't get them in. If something comes up over the summer, for example. So that's the rest of the process. If nobody has any other questions, we'll be around here for a few minutes, but thank you all for coming. Thank you, Y, for hosting us.
Thank you, everyone.